That's Alistair Parnell performing on the Aerophone, the Roland Aerophone. And Alistair, it's so great to have you here with us today. Thank you so much for joining us all the way
It,
from the UK, where where it is, I think, 8 o'clock or so out there.
it's 8 o'clock in the evening. That's right.
That's amazing. So it's a great for us to be able to have this time to spend with you. All over the world and all over Aerophonedom, and I'm certainly there's a lot of great reasons to talk about the Aerophone, and we're going to be talking about a lot of them today. So
Yep.
again, we're thrilled to have Alistair with us, joining us with Patchman Music today, and thanks for being with us today, Alistair.
My pleasure. Thank you very much for having me.
So, of course, since that video was actually produced at the outset of the Aerophone's
Mhm.
release, certainly a lot of things have happened since then, but that was one of the earlier performances that you did. And so we're grateful to have you sharing a little bit about your experiences with the instrument over the life of the instrument and some of the ways that it's developed, some of the ways that you've been able to implement it into your performance and content creation, things that
Mhm.
we've seen you perform on YouTube, et cetera, over the years. So
Yep.
please share some of what you've enjoyed about it.
Okay, so what I thought I would do is take you through the three members of the Aerophone family. And I'll do a little demo on each one, and we'll give you a kind of comparison as we go through. We're also going to look at the applications because each of the Aerophones has its own application as well. So we'll take a little look at those. And then hopefully, provided I don't gabble on for too long, there'll be enough time at the end for some questions. So we're going to start here, as you probably realize, with the Aerophone 10E. This was the first Aerophone to be released by Roland, and it's kind of the big brother of the family. And why don't we have a little listen to a little piece I wrote for the Aerophone, and then I'll take you through some more details. So here we go.
Man, every time, every time I watch you play it, I just think how much you get out of that instrument is just amazing. So, thank you so much. If you're just joining us, we're here live talking all things Aerophone with Alistair Parnell, Aerophone master, and of course, we're talking about the Roland Aerophone. That was the AE-10G that Alistair is playing right now, and he was obviously showing us a lot of what that instrument can do. If you're joining us and you're just starting out on the Aerophone, or just starting out on any wind instrument, or maybe just starting out on any instrument, we're hoping that the Aerophone starts to give you some ideas of what is possible with the capabilities of the Aerophone AE-10, AE-10G, and then we're going to move on to some other ones as we go. But Alistair, that was such a tour de force of so many different kinds of sounds and so many different ways that you're controlling the sounds. Maybe you can kind of break it down for us a little bit.
Yeah. Okay. So this instrument is fully kind of 8-octave range. Of course, the whole Aerophone family are based on the fingering of the acoustic saxophone. So for a saxophone player, I think they are a really accessible instrument to get into. For me, you know, as a saxophone player, it was a very easy instrument to pick up and get playing straight away. I think I had the Aerophone maybe for only about a week or so before I did a first demonstration of it. So it just kind of shows you how quickly somebody that's used to a saxophone layout. So all the keys are in exactly the right place for the saxophone player. Of course, with having 8 octaves, we've got a little bit more to do on the back of the instrument, because we've got now 4 different octave keys, which actually extend then to an 8-octave range. We've also got the mouthpiece and reed situation, which is going to feel pretty similar to a saxophone setup. Of course, all the Aerophones are breath sensitive. The harder you blow, the louder the sound comes out. And both the AE-10 and the AE-05 are also lip pressure sensitive. So that's going to respond to the bite on the lip. And those settings for the breath and for the bite are adjustable in the app. So they can pretty much suit most players' styles. The other thing about the AE-10 is, you know, of all of the instruments, this has the most inbuilt sounds. So we have now, I think, about 128 sounds. Now, they're a mixture of kind of synthesizer sounds that you've just heard in that first piece. They are also some traditional instrument sounds, some ethnic sounds. So there's quite a big range in there. Let's maybe have a little listen to a few of those sounds. By the way, on the AE-10, I'm changing sounds. You know, I have this nice display on the back here, so I can select my sounds there. In the piece that I just played earlier, in case you're wondering, you know, how are the sounds being changed? Well, there's some shortcut keys that you can use on the AE-10 to change sounds pretty quickly. So this one I'm going to show you to begin with is the shakuhachi sound. And the reason I picked this one to begin with is because the Aerophone 10 has on board some of the sounds are supernatural sounds. So these are sounds that have actually got different layers and different parts, different elements of the sound built in. So some patches that you might hear will only be the one sound. Yes, they'll control volume, but you'll hear in this sound that there are some other kind of artifacts that come into this sound. So if I play quite gently, so you can hear, you know, the more breath sound as I blow harder built into the sound. If I push even harder now, I'll get a change in sound quite obviously. You can hear there's that characteristic kind of little extra sound note that comes in if I blow really, really hard. And then, of course, the other thing I've got is the thumb lever on the back. So now if I push the thumb lever over to the right-hand side, my right-hand side, as I blow, now I get a kind of typical little ornament sound. So this is without. and this is with. So now with my lip that I can bend the note, I can use my thumb in two directions, because if I go the other direction, I get a kind of growling sound. So I think there's some nice kind of expressive quality there, just in the one sound. And let's go on to a more traditional instrument. I always quite like to demonstrate this cello sound. Which, you know, I think is a great acoustic instrument sound. My father was an accordionist, so the accordion is always an instrument that's been very close to my heart. And now if I go lower in this octave, and again, I'm going to use my thumb here, you can hear that I can start to play kind of like a bass and chords. Unfortunately, I haven't yet managed to work out how I can do both of those things at the same time, but maybe that'll come. Another favorite instrument of mine is those kind of Celtic kind of pipe sounds, and made famous by things like Riverdance, of course. And this demonstrates, so we're introducing now to the fact that the Aerophone is actually multi-timbral. It can play more than one sound and more than one voice at the time. So with this one, it has one of these typical drone sounds. So I'm switching this on just by using the thumb lever over to the left-hand side. And that'll sustain for me. And if you listen when I turn this off, I don't know if that comes across. That's the bag on the pipe being deflated. There's quite a nice little detail in there. Let's do a couple more. So we've also got effects on board. We've got chorus, delay, and reverb. And one of the nice things that some of WinSynth players like to do is use the delay function, because so there's a composer called Telemann, and he wrote some canonic sonatas. This is where one voice starts and then it immediately gets repeated. So I'm using this on this sound now. What it's doing is it's repeating everything I play. So it's played the phrase twice for me. And if I time this right, I can kind of play a duet with myself. Okay, so I can do a nice little duet quite comfortably there. And because I've got the sort of multi-timbral sound, I can get up to 8 different notes at the same time. So I can build up chords. These are parallel chords. So whatever note I play, it still makes the same chords. But if I also play around with the levels where each interval cuts in and cuts out, I can kind of make it sound like I'm going from 1 note to 2 notes to 4 notes to 8 notes on this vocal sound. And a lot of players want to play kind of horn section stuff, so I can do some horn section. If I want to fill in the band there, so no longer do we have to just rely on the keyboard player. You know, the sax player can fill in some synth lines or some horn parts or something. And then, you know, I can also use like a sustain feature as well. So the demo I often do is this bit of bark on the organ sound. So that's using my thumb this time as like a sustain pedal would do for a keyboard player. So, you know, that with all the synth sounds in there as well, there's a tremendous amount of kind of sonic possibilities in there. One thing you've got to be really careful with the sounds is that, you know, you've got to play them in the right way. So you need to listen to the instruments that you want to try and imitate and work on getting the nuances right. But there's plenty of options for control on the Aerophone. Like everything else, takes practice, but you know, you've got a lot of options in there. Now, just let me show you as well, as if that wasn't enough sounds, you know, we can also use the app to edit the sounds. I just want to show you this very quickly here. You can see my app here that I'm connected to. And so there are different levels of the app, but let's say if I take this saw sound that I've kind of edited a little bit myself before, and this is just to demonstrate. So here's the sound as it stands. Okay. And as you can see on the screen now, in the basic function of this app, I can add different sounds in here. So we've got this sort of layer screen up here. And if I wanted to say add another sound, I can use this drop down list here to select any one of the internal Aerophone patches. And I've selected this voice sound here. So again, here's the original. Now, if I turn on this second part, you can hear I've got that kind of do sound going on there now. So, you know, obviously there's a huge amount of creative possibility there, and I'm not going to save that because it's one that I've already done earlier. And let's look at another one here. That sound you heard earlier, the kind of accordion sound. Here it is again. And now something you can do in a very simple way here is we can add the same instrument again. So here I'm going to add the same instrument again on my part 2. It's another accordion sound, but now I'm going to go to the bottom right-hand corner here where it says advanced. And you can see we've got sections across the top here where we can control the parts, the actual control of the instrument. You can set up all your breath response and lip response. We've got tremendous amount of multi-effects in there, and of course reverb and chorus that we've already looked at. But I've got my second version of that. It's called La Scène accordion sound here. And what I'm going to do is I'm just going to use the detune function here. So, you know, that's a very kind of typical kind of musette sound with that slight detune on it. And all of those sounds, of course, you can save back to the Aerophone if you'd like to, because you've got like 100 user presets you want to do. And on the main screen on the front here, you can kind of reorder those sounds that you want to use. So if you're on a gig and you want them in a certain order, it's quite easy to copy and move those around. So in a nutshell, that's my little brief look at the AE-10. I think Corey's got something for you right now.
Again, great stuff, Alistair. So great having you talk about the AE-10. And we're going to get back to it a little bit later as we go through some of the other Aerophone models. But just the range of that instrument, not so much even the sonic range, but the octave range.
Sure.
You can get so much depth out of the bass and the low end. Some of that stuff that
Yeah.
you're playing during your demo,
Yeah.
just it's all there's some really powerful low end stuff.
Absolutely. Yeah. Yeah. And yeah, quite a wide range of tones available. And of course, as we'll see a little bit later as well, there's a huge amount of stuff we can do externally by using it as a controller. We'll see that later.
Right, right. Great. And so we're going to let Alistair transition here to another part of the Aerophone family, the Aerophone Go. And in the meantime, we're going to let our host here, Patchman, Matt Traum, share a little bit about one of the other cool features of the Aerophone, all of the Aerophones actually, which is that it supports not just only the sax fingerings that we've seen on the actual front panel, but also other fingerings that are available in the instrument that you can select and customize to your suit, to whatever suits you. And in particular, there's a lot of brass players, of course, that like to use the Aerophone and experiment with all the different sounds that are available and the other practice benefits, being able to play anytime, built-in speakers or plug in the headphones, whatever. And so Matt's going to take us a little bit on a journey of how to play the Aerophone if you are a brass player. And particularly, this is going to be fingerings, but there's other ones as well. And so he's going to be showing us actually on the Aerophone Mini how this is done, but it works for all the Aerophones. So Matt, take it away.
Hi everybody, Matt Traum here from Patchman Music. I wanted to give you a quick demonstration of the brass fingering system that's available on the entire line of the Aerophones, the 3 models. I'm going to be using just the Aerophone Mini here to show you the basics of the brass fingering. So it's basically designed for trumpet players. You grip the horn with the 2 fingers here. You hold it with these fingers at all times. This finger here lowers the pitch a fourth. It'd be kind of equivalent to a 4th valve on a 4-valved brass instrument, or the trigger on a F trombone. And then the 3 valves are down here, just like a trumpet. Basically, you learn 1 octave of fingering, and all the octaves are the same fingering in all octaves. So you're basically fingering in the lower octave of a trumpet in every octave. So this would be an open C. And you go down to a B, B flat, A flat. Now for G, you open up the right hand and you press this to lower the pitch a fourth. So it goes from C to G. So there's your G. And then you finger down from there. F sharp, F, E, E flat, D, D flat. And now for the next C, you would open up and lift this and then select the next octave with your thumb. So this is basically how it looks. And it just goes down from there. So it's a real versatile system, and once you learn it, it's a lot of fun to play. There you go.
Matt, you're shredding, man. I love that stuff, dude. And
Yeah.
really shows kind of some of the other versatility available. And of course, other fingerings are also supported, and you can create custom fingerings. I know there's a question that came up about clarinet fingerings, and I'm not sure how close to exactly we can get to clarinet. And maybe Alistair, you might have a little bit more insight on that. And I'll let you maybe field that as a kind of a fastball. Sorry about that on the
Yep.
fly here.
No, that's okay. That's okay. Yeah, so I play clarinet myself pretty badly. So the thing about the clarinet is that, of course, it overblows by 12 notes, so it doesn't do an octave in its kind of native system. So the closest we can get on the Aerophone is that you would find that you would be playing all of the octaves for the clarinet fingering as if you're playing the upper octave of the clarinet. So you won't have like open G, G sharp, A, B flat. You won't have those throat notes in there. You'll just change to another octave. So it's just the same as playing the upper octave of the clarinet, which is actually pretty similar to the upper octave of a saxophone anyway. So I would say you can pretty easily get used to that fingering for if you're a clarinet player. Yeah.
Nice. All right. So I think now we've transitioned to the middle child of the Aerophone family,
Yes.
which
Yeah.
is the the Aerophone Go.
Yeah.
So I'm going to let Matt take over, and sorry, I'm going to let Alistair take over here and share a little bit about how the Aerophone Go plays.
Okay, good. So yeah, this is Aerophone Go or Aerophone 05, AE-05. And you know, as you can see, it's a slightly smaller version. It's nice and compact and lightweight. By the way, both this one and the AE-10 come with a pretty decent case as well. And we've got a very similar mouthpiece set up here with the reed, and still has the lip sensitivity and the breath pressure sensitivity. Exactly the same layout of fingering, although slightly more compact, almost a bit more like a soprano sax rather than an alto sax, you might feel. But as I say, that makes it nice and light and compact. We've got now a range of about 4 octaves, which is plenty for most situations. And we still have a control button on the back of this one. Whereas on the AE-10, you have that 4-way lever. Now we have a control button, which can be kind of programmed to do pretty much any control that you'd like it to. And on board on this instrument, there are 11 tones, which we're going to hear now. I'll play some of those tones in a little piece I've done for this. And then, of course, what you can see here to my side is we've got the app. And the app offers more than 50 additional sounds as well. And we'll look at the app a little bit more in a moment. So let me play you this short little piece I've got, which steps through about kind of 5 or 6 of these tunes. Okay, so that was you could see perhaps there the interesting thing that I don't think a lot of people realize here, and I think it's really useful. I'm playing internal sounds on that demonstration there. But you can see, I hope, that I was changing the sounds from the app. Now, what we haven't said so far is how are we connected to the app. Now, I've got a lot of stuff going on here, so you'll see wires all over the place, but this is just an audio cable. This isn't connected to the iPad because I'm connected to the iPad via Bluetooth. Okay, so both the AE-05 and the AE-01 have Bluetooth. Okay, and this allows us to do some changing. So that was actually changing my internal sounds on the fly. This is much quicker and easier than, we've got these three nice easy dials here. The top one is for the tone, the sound. Then we've got the transpose button. It's all nice and easily laid out. And of course, a volume button. But if I want to just touch on the name of the sound here, as you can see on the side, this is changing my internal sounds, which is really great. And of course, we've got sounds on the iPad as well that we can use if we want to. And let's look at what else we've got on this app here. We've got this page, firstly, which is kind of all the settings and changes you might want to make. So I can control, like Matt was just explaining to you, this is where I can select which fingering I'd like to use. I can set up things with the system here, tells me about my battery level, tells me if I need to update the firmware, which is done wirelessly over Bluetooth. And here's all the MIDI data page here, so I can control which MIDI channel I'm using. I can set up the breath message if I want to send a different breath message into external synths. I can change the CC numbers there. So huge amount of possibilities there. All of this stuff is actually accessible on the AE-10 on that menu that I showed you earlier. But of course, on the AE-05, there's no menu on the back here, no screen, but it's really nice and easy to see it here on the app. Then you've got all your sounds here, and you can set up shortcuts and things if you like. We have a nice little playback feature here, so you can select a song from your iTunes library or a song that you've imported, and then you can set it up. And as you can see, you can control the volume of the track. You can control the playback speed. So if you'd like to rehearse with something, kind of slow it down, make it a little bit easier for you to begin with, that's easy to do. And you even change the key of the backing track if you like to. And then the other little feature I just wanted to show you here, I'm just going to switch on to maybe this little flute sound. There's even some built-in lessons. Now, what I should make clear is that all of the functions on this app are pretty much identical for the AE-01, which I'm going to show you. It also has its own app, and pretty much everything that's in the app for the AE-05 is also in for the Aerophone Mini as well. But here's some lessons so we can actually be kind of taught what fingerings we use here. And I'm going to select this one, Little Brown Jug. Now, what'll happen is I've got my Aerophone ready to play. It's going to show me across the top there the notes to press, and you'll see as I'm going through, it'll actually show you the fingerings that you should be pressing. Let's see if I can manage this tune. Okay, let me just make sure the audio is going to come through for you. Okay, we're better. Okay, here we go. and then it's going to give me a score. Fingers crossed. Hey, 100%. So
we'd expect nothing less.
Oh, well, that's very kind. Thank you. So that is a look at the AE-05 and the lesson app involved in there as well. Over
Great
to
stuff.
you, Corey.
Yeah. So yeah, as Alistair mentioned, also a lot of that capability is that he's performing is actually via Bluetooth, and he showed you that he's connected with the cable for the audio on the AE-05, but all the connection to the tablet is actually a Bluetooth connection that he was able to do that, both for triggering sounds, interacting with the lessons, and also being able to stream the audio that you're loading into the app, Bluetooth audio. You can actually stream that into the Aerophone GO and the Aerophone Mini. So there's a lot of utility in those instruments and a lot of connectivities that make it really fun and wireless in a lot of cases. So a lot of capabilities there that are fun to play with and very educational. So if you're just starting out, it'll literally teach you from scratch which notes to play as you learn songs. And if you want to go further with your learning, Roland has just announced a partnership with one of the leading software education platforms for music making, and that of course would be Smart Music. And maybe, yeah, there you go, Gabe, thanks. Right on cue, of course. And the right now in the month of June, Roland Aerophone owners can access Smart Music at smartmusic.com/Roland and get a free unlimited access to all of their great titles. They have interactive music with both sheet music and these amazing backing tracks. So they'll give you assessment on your performance, but also you can slow everything down and enlarge the sheet music, do loops, all that kind of stuff. So we put together a little video just to kind of give you a little taste of what it looks like for a Aerophone and Smart Music. So check this out.
Hello, this is a demo on how to connect the Roland Aerophone to Smart Music. I am currently using the AE-10 and it is connected to my computer with a USB cable. This is great because with the direct MIDI connection from my computer to the Aerophone, I'm able to track both fast and accurately. Here's what you'll see in the music when it first loads. You can see from the top menu that there are a lot of different options available to you within Smart Music. You can control the volume of the different parts, including the metronome, the accompaniment, and even your own part. You can also mute and unmute each of these. You can also look at my takes, which are the recordings you will make with Smart Music. Back on the track screen, I'm going to make sure that Smart Music is detecting the Aerophone as a MIDI instrument. So I'm going to select the little microphone icon and make sure that the MIDI is selected. And I'll choose the first option here, melodic through MIDI, and it's all set. And with that, let's dive right in and record the first take. Now that the take is recorded, we'll head over to My Takes and check out the assessment. The green notes are the notes that I played accurately, while the red notes are the notes that I played inaccurately. If I played the wrong note, I can click on the note and see the proper fingering for the correct note. And with that, here's a recording of Rockin' Blues played on the Aerophone with Smart Music. Enjoy!
Fun.
Yep.
So that's a little taste of what we can do with the Smart Music app and the Roland Aerophone. And so Alistair now has the AE-01, which is the newest part of the Aerophone family, and actually most compact and most affordable, as it turns out, as well. And it's not based on the saxophone fingering, it's actually based on recorder fingerings, but has a lot of the other same capabilities of a Aerophone. So Alistair's going to share a little bit about how that fits into the Aerophone family.
Yeah. So this is a great little instrument if you perhaps haven't played a saxophone or clarinet or flute or whatever. If you fancied having a go and you've really felt that maybe the piano is a little bit tricky, maybe the drums is a bit too much coordination, something like this can be great. Of course, the recorder is an absolutely wonderful instrument. And but some of you may remember perhaps some of the sounds you might have made in early school days playing the recorder might not have been too pleasing, particularly for your parents. But you know, this actually works really nicely and gives you a nice range of notes. We can get about 3.5 octave of notes out of this. It's a really simple operation. Basically, the way the fingering works is very similar to the recorder, but anytime you want a sharp, you can press the little finger on the top, and anytime you want to flatten any note, you can press the little finger on the bottom there. And we've still got that Bluetooth capability. By the way, what we haven't said earlier on, of course, all the Aerophones can run on batteries, and they will all take either USB power or AC power as well. So that's really handy. And then we don't have to worry about lip control on this, because this is just a straight breath pressure. So you don't have lip control to worry about or learn to control. And, you know, we can make some nice sounds straight out of the box, because the pitch is going to be nice and true, and the notes are nice and easy to learn. I bet most of you didn't sound like that when you first started out on the recorder. And so, you know, we've got 6 nice inbuilt sounds here. Again, we've got the app. Let me get the right switch. Here we are. And very similar, as we just pointed out, we've got all the control set up here. We can use our built-in metronome for our practice, select our sounds. Again, we've still got that player. You know, if we want to play something with a backing track is still in there. And we've got the lessons that we looked at earlier as well. And I just come back to this page because I know time's moving on. I thought it would be hard to fit all of this into a short time. But I'm just wanting to show you there that there is room to grow on this, even on this Aerophone Mini. And I mentioned earlier on about the possibility of expanding your library of sounds into something like I use MainStage, which I'm going to show you in a moment. And this page here gives you a little quick glimpse at the fact that even on the baby Aerophone, you know, there's still quite a lot of good control that you can get out of this and use it as a pretty decent MIDI controller as well. I'm just going to change this control here to send my breath pressure out as CCO2, which I need. And now I'm going to switch you over to look at my MainStage setup. This is where I kind of spend most of my time. And you know, I use this on all of the Aerophones, but let's have a look here now. This is a sound that I'm doing. So I'm triggering this with the AE-10. I'm connected via a USB cable, but I could be connected by a Bluetooth as well. Just sort of triggering extra sounds going on here. So I can have some nice fun, even to play some chords here. So, you know, it works as a great little handy controller. So small and compact, you can pretty much sort of fit it into any suitcase. I've even taken mine away on holiday with me, which my wife wasn't that impressed with, but, you know, it's a fun thing to do. And I just wanted to finish and go back onto the AE-10 here, just to show you a couple of other sounds. I'm not sure whether Matt's going to mention it or not in his in the comments, but he was mentioning that there might be a deal going on with some of his sounds, because some of the sounds you've just heard me play there from MainStage are from Matt Traum from the Patchman website, and they take a lot of beating. You know, they are absolutely fantastic sounds, and they've been programmed to work really well with wind synthesizers. So if I just go back, say, to this Krumar EV sound, you can hear my lip control there. And, you know, they're just really expressive sounds. That's part of the ES2 sounds collection. And the other collection of sounds that I really love to play, the SWAM engine sounds are really phenomenal, I think. Here's their violin sound. So a really fantastic kind of control of sound and level. If I set my right patch here, it'll even help me more. And this is a lovely bit of flugelhorn that I thought might be nice just to finish off my little playing demos with. And let's see what you think for this. Etc. That's another SWAM sound, and there's endless possibilities for the Aerophone player if you not only with the internal sounds but connecting to the outside world. You'll never be able to put it down.
Such great stuff, Alistair. Really appreciate all the time and practice you put into this, obviously, you know. And as you mentioned, even at the top, you know, this is the Aerophone's an instrument. You know, it doesn't. You know, it's going to be an easy learning curve, but obviously to get the nuances and all the different things that you're doing to get the lip control and the various, you know, thumb control things that you can do, you've obviously put a lot into it, and getting those, you know, playing the sound like the you know, like the actual acoustic instrument and really listening,
Exactly.
you know, to those sounds is really a key part of that. So yeah, it really comes through when you use those, you know, controllers and stuff on the Aerophone to, you know, to really make it sing. And Matt, of course, I don't know if you wanted to come on and talk about some of the things that you have available, but I know he's going to be offering some things special for this program in honor of our special guest Alistair being available for us all the way from the UK. If you're joining us a little bit late, this is Alistair Parnell with Talking Aerophone, and we're being hosted here by Matt Traum, the Patchman, who has just joined us. Ooh, a rare appearance. We're very excited to have Matt here, and he's going to talk a little bit about some of the things that are available as a special today and as part of the Patchman program.
Okay, can you hear me okay, everybody?
Yeah.
Okay, thanks everybody for coming. This is really special, and I thank you to Alistair and Roland for hosting this. And Alistair, you're just knocking it out of the ballpark. What a great job you're doing. You're the master.
Thank you.
Wouldn't have anybody else do it. I mean,
that's kind of you. Thank you.
Yeah, I think we were going to offer up some of the questions. Maybe that we could have the. Let's see. I'll put up some of the questions. I'll offer that one to Alistair. I think, Alistair, one of the questions was if we can do master tune. In other words, can you tune the Aerophone? And I think you can transpose it if you.
Absolutely, you can you can master tune the whole thing, and you can set any of the instruments to be in any key, and that applies to all of the Aerophones. So right through from the AE-10 to the AE-01. So yeah, you don't have any problem with transposition. You can play off clarinet music, flute music, sax music, whatever you like. It's all available.
And I think also the AE-10, and there's a wireless solution if I'm not mistaken, and maybe Gabe, if there's a, we can put the slide up for the accessories. The question came up about how to do wireless on the AE-10, and there's a couple ways to do that. Of course, one of which is the Boss WL20, which is a wireless system that's available from Boss. And I know Matt is also a Boss dealer, and he also does a lot of business with pedals. And I know, Alistair, you've done videos about using the talk box and kind of voice control kind of stuff.
Yeah, there's a video on the Roland channel of me demonstrating just this WL20L and the the vocoder pedal as well, because the AE-10 has a vocoder patch which helps you to set up that. So yeah, that's a lot of fun.
Nice. And of course, as you may be aware of, everyone out there, there's additional mouthpieces available for all the Aerophone models. And in fact, the AE-01 and the AE-05 have interchangeable mouthpieces, one of which is a reed type of mouthpiece, like on the AE-10. But then the AE-01 actually ships with a round mouthpiece that doesn't require any kind of reed pressure. So you actually can play it, just straight on, not having to have any type of embouchure type that conforms to a typical sax mouthpiece.
Yeah.
And whereas the AE-05 has the standard reed type mouthpiece because it does have a bite sensor. And so that way you can have either or mouthpiece, but the one that comes with the AE-01 does not require any kind of bite pressure because there actually is no bite sensor.
Correct.
So just kind of making those little information nuggets available. And anything else that Matt, did anything else come up that we wanted to cover in the Q&A?
I just wanted to clarify the AE-01. I think you mentioned it has the round mouthpiece.
Yes.
That actually ships with the reed type mouthpiece at least in the units I've gotten.
It actually changed over at a certain point. Yes.
I didn't know that. Okay.
Yes.
So yeah, we have both types of mouthpieces too. If you need replacements or you want to try the other type, I have those. And like Corey said, we carry all the pedals, and I normally don't stock some of those things. I mostly specialize in the wind controller specific things, but I can of course get any of the Roland or Boss things for anybody who would like that. So just email me. Happy to help.
Awesome. Well,
Alistair, somebody asked, I don't have the exact question in front of me. Somebody asked about alternate fingerings on the Aerophones as far as sharps and flats. Maybe you could address that real quick, maybe.
Yeah, the Aerophone family are kind of quite advanced in terms of the fingering. So if you're talking about, all of these, they know all the different B flat fingerings that a saxophone player would use, the alternative F sharps. That's all on there that you would have for a regular saxophone instrument. Of course, you've got the EWI fingering as well. So that opens up an enormous amount of fingering possibilities if you want to delve deeper into that. The other thing I really like about the Aerophone series is that the harmonic notes, so the notes above the normal range on the saxophone, which we spend a lot of time learning to play, on the Aerophone, you can use those harmonic fingerings as well. So, some of you will kind of recognize these last two fingers as a top A, maybe if you're a more advanced saxophone player. Aerophone will recognize that if you want it to. If you set it to recognize that, it'll recognize all those harmonic fingerings as well. So yeah, pretty comprehensive. I'm sure it's not every single fingering on there, but I think you'll be pretty satisfied.
And I think is it 10 fingerings that you can customize on the all the Aerophone models? Yeah. That's a really powerful feature. I mentioned that in the comments that you can record up to pick 10 notes, and you can put your own fingering that you like and save it to the instrument, and it'll save it, and the instrument becomes your own personal fingering. So if you have a favorite altissimo fingering or whatever, that's very powerful. And and also the other advantage I think of the Aerophones, just especially the 10 and the 5, is it's just so much. Well, it's not exactly a saxophone, but it's awfully close. And I think it's the easiest one to learn of all the wind controllers. It's got all the palm keys and being a trumpet player, I can't tell you exactly what it is. Well, the names are, but it has more keys, I think, than any other wind controller, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah.
It's great stuff. Hey, Alistair, I don't have to put you on the spot. With the hold feature that you were using before,
Yeah.
and then the ability to breathe in and then let it just play, and you don't have to actually breathe while you're
Yeah.
playing. I don't know if that was something that everyone is aware of on the Aerophone.
Yeah, well,
On the
there are two
AE-10.
different ways. Some of them have like a drone sound built in, where you can literally just trigger the drone sound, and then you can take a breath wherever you like. But the one I did with the organ sound on the bark, that was using my thumb lever as a sustain, basically. So as long as I keep blowing, I can play as many notes as I want to, and it will sustain it just like a pianist would do with a pedal. By the way, there's a whole document on the Roland website about the possibilities of the controls of this little lever on the back of the AE-10. For many of the sounds, there's like at least half a dozen different qualities of sound that you can change and add if you want to. So very, very customizable.
That's great.
If I could just say one more thing about just wind controllers in general, especially now with the problems with the virus and people being home, they've come in handy for quite a lot of people who want to practice and play at home and not necessarily bother their family or their apartment neighbors. And so it's just a great way to practice and still keep your music going and not make a lot of noise if that's what you're desiring. Some people use them for medical reasons, or if they're people getting older and they don't have the wind power or the muscles in their embouchure anymore, they can play. It'll keep them playing music. And it's a really, really positive instrument. It's worth learning. It takes a little bit of practice to kind of get used to it, but once you get into it, it's pretty amazing. And also having the built-in speakers. All three models have the little built-in speakers. They're, you're not going to use them to fill a concert hall, but for practicing, they're just so handy. You don't have to worry about finding cables and plugging an amp in.
Yeah,
that's a really powerful feature too for the
absolutely.
Yeah, to your point, Matt, about if you're struggling with having to blow consistently through the Aerophone. I know one of the features that we've seen be used before is you blow once and then you don't have to keep blowing. You can just keep fingering, and then you inhale one time and that stops the tone. So it's kind of a continuous play without having to actually keep blowing.
Yeah, there's so many parameters. If you want to dig into it, it's all there. And on the Aerophone 10 and 10G, those are all, many of them are available right on the horn with the nice OLED LCD display there. So it's, you can dig in and do all kinds of fun things with it. You can play multiple notes at the same time, like you said. And it's just a lot of fun. You don't have to dig in if you don't want to. They play right out of the box pretty easily. But if you want to, there's a lot of depth.
Yep.
Well, I think we've kind of covered a lot of the folks' questions that have come through. I think Matt will still stay connected to the folks on chat and be able to answer some of the more of those questions. And of course, Matt's continuously available on the East Coast. And Alistair, you're also on Facebook, of course, out in the UK, where it's now 9 o'clock that we've gotten you up to. And of course, if we're available at Roland, of course, anytime for tech support. That if anyone has any questions, we're certainly happy to help anybody walk through any of the button pushes that might be helpful. So I think we'll thank Alistair for his valuable time and his amazing skill in sharing so much great
My
stuff.
pleasure. Thank you for inviting me.
Oh, it's really a pleasure, and thank you, Matt, for being our host on your channel.
My pleasure, my honor.
And if you missed part of the first part of this video, as I understand it, we'll repost on the Patchman Facebook page.
Yeah, we'll try to get it up. Yep.
So you'll be able to see the stuff that Alistair was doing earlier on, which was just some amazing stuff that if you haven't heard, how the Aerophone can do the different chordal things and the drone and all the different delay stuff that he was doing to kind of sound recording and things like that. It's just some masterful stuff that you really want to catch if you didn't catch it at the top. So thank you, Alistair. Thank you, Matt. Thank you, Roland. And we'll look forward to seeing you guys on the next round.
Cool. Thanks very much,
Again,
everybody.
Thanks for joining us.
Take care.